Well, good morning, and here we are again at the White Hart Hotel, bang in the centre of Lewis and bang in the centre of English-British history. We had a nice little set of visitors yesterday. Today is Friday, where we always decide that what we'll do is we'll throw meat into the pot and see what comes out. And if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you'll hope that it won't be meat. The beams behind me are very historic, 17th century. The hotel, very historic, 17th century. And I'm very happy to say that Cliff and Sally, the present owners and who run the thing, are not 17th century. They are very much 21st century. And that's why we're here, because they recognize that things have to be done for the community, and they've given us space to broadcast from what you might consider to be an unusual spot. Anyway, this is Mirador Television, and along the bottom you will see now, for the first time, an email address, Mirador Television. Hopefully I've spelled it correctly this morning. Yes, Mirador Television at gmail.com. And in our next hour, starting at 9:30, Affairs from the Heart is or Affairs of the Heart, rather, is you can now email us with your ideas and your thoughts. Even if you want to come on, if you've got your charity or your organization, or for that matter, your business, if it's interesting enough. But we'll most certainly take advertising as well. Most certainly we will. But there we go. That's what this is all about. It's about a little. Well, this first hour is rather more fierce than the second. We tend to look at the newspapers and see what's going on, what nonsense is going on in the world. One thing that probably is only tucked away and isn't reported in most newspapers this morning. Let's just make ourselves a little bit more comfortable, shall we? It's Friday. We've been comfortable for the rest of the week, but we didn't start until Tuesday. So this is a new venture for us, and I hope it'll work. As I say, we had some interesting people drop by. But one thing that is in the depths of the news is that United States intelligence and the intelligence services haven't always been up to snuff, unless you actually watch Harrison Ford or Robert Redford or somebody. They haven't always been up to snuff and getting it right. But what they are reporting is that Vladimir Putin, believes that it is a war of attrition, and that if he keeps going, the West will get fed up and disappear. That they will get fed up of not having the good things on the table, and that they will disappear. And I have to say that I worry a little bit about that, because we do not have a good track record at the moment of putting up with privation. We moan like hell. We prance around in the streets with posters. We wear funny colors, make fun lines, invade television stations to get our message across. The fact of the matter is that we do not bear privation terribly well. We would much rather see somebody being bombed to pieces than we would find that the price of eggs has doubled. Oh, I can see all the back hairs of the liberal establishment getting upset. The fact of the matter is that it is true. We do not like our lollipops taken away. We get very upset when our lollipops are taken away, and we lash out at whoever happens to be nearest, which in this case is dear old Boris, who's being lashed enough, I would have thought, at the moment, for anybody. I mean, I'm starting to really admire the fortitude of the Prime Minister, because he came in on the great rush of popularity, and immediately beset by COVID and Brexit, and then going into a war and into a recession, and God knows what all else. He has been hit at every side, and he's still there saying, "I want to be prime minister," and everybody else say, "We don't want you to be prime minister," but with no earthly idea of who they will put in their place. However, you can almost guarantee the one thing that they will put in place is that somebody will say yes, 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 and the lollipops will come back, and all the principles that they talk about over Christmas cake will go through the window. You watch. Oh dear me, no, can't do without the lollipops. That's what the voters want, and in fact, when it comes down to it, that is what we want, and that's what we drive, so we get what we deserve. So don't, the hand-wringing that goes on about, oh, dear, look what's happening overseas and so on. Oh, we're not doing enough for foreign aid. It's all really down to us. It depends how many lollipops we're prepared to give up, and that ain't many. So that's a good start for the day, isn't it? Let's take a look at the headlines, shall we? The gig is up, Boris, and Johnson buckles in the headlines. The Daily Telegraph, Johnson buckles over the party inquiry. Okay, in my view, he should have just said, get on with it, because nobody's going to take any notice of it once it's over. What it's doing at the moment is it's wasting. Oh, how Mickey. I don't know. What it's doing at the moment is it's wasting parliamentary time. Mark my words, at the end of the session, things that you expected to be done, you'll be told there wasn't enough parliamentary time, and yet you all cheer while the parliamentary time is taken up with this nonsense. What I call Boris's Christmas icing cake. It's all rubbish. Never mind about overseas, which is bad enough, because those things can threaten us more and more and more. In fact, one prediction is that the war in Ukraine will actually start a global famine. See how you deal with that. And we've got stagnation, which to all intents and purposes is rising prices and stable or negative growth. We've got a hint of inflation along with that, even if stagflation goes. Prices will increase, continue to increase. Cost of living will go up, whether wages go along with them or not, and whether there's growth in the economy or not. We've got policing problems, which daily become more and more obvious. Some little boy was left to suffer for almost 10 years. Because the authorities took the word of the parents who were battering this little boy that he got COVID and couldn't be seen. Yeah, okay. That's the level that we've got. Do you care? No, you don't care. Too much at stake for the iced cake. This is all be remembered in the history books as the time when Parliament went mad over an iced cake. And it's all very well to start rattling your principles. And the trouble is that most people are too old. In fact, almost everybody is gone now who would remember that before Churchill took over during the Second World War, or when Hitler was on the move in Germany, that we had a government that wanted to act on principle. You can't say that we would now be in captivity if that had happened, but it would have changed the course of history a great deal if it had. Yes, principle is very, very important. Very important, particularly in a self-serving society such as we have today. But it isn't a be-all and end-all. Sometimes practicality has to take over. Sometimes some people have to get their fingers dirty. Sometimes some people have to go to the coalface. I can read more books about various parts of the world, and having been there, I can laugh. And yet these are written in all seriousness by people who have never been there. They know. Oh, a lovely, lovely morning start. And outside, it's the same as yesterday. It's 15 degrees. A mild breeze. Yeah, watch this a little bit. And let's say thank you to the bus driver this morning who saw me running for the bus. And I thought, oh, damn it, I missed it. But he spotted me in his mirror and he waited because I had to cross a busy road. He waited, God bless him. And so I got here in time to be greeted by the lovely Shannon, who is the early morning lady here who keeps watch. So if you get here about 7 o'clock or so and march through the front doors of the White Hart, there she is. It's either she or Jane, and they greet you and make sure that you're well looked after. And there's a cup of coffee waiting on the hearth side. The fire is going. Oh, my goodness me. I mean, it is comfort personified. But anyway, thank you to the bus driver who waited with a smile on his face. God bless him. He was a very nice man. And most of the bus drivers are. You only get a grumpy one once in a while. I suppose that's true of train drivers and airplane. Well, I'm not sure about pilots, as I knew the pilots behave very well during the 1980s, and they said we're a peculiar lot, and indeed they were. But they were able to fly planes successfully. I didn't want a nice guy at controls. I wanted a guy who knew how to get the thing into the air and back down onto the ground. That was my criteria. So that's the weather outside. Anyway, I wrapped with a nice bus driver, and that was my nice greeting from Shannon this morning, who keeps good watch at the White Hart. Good watch. Okay, so the Telegraph has gone with the fact that Boris has had to give way to a number of Conservatives. And frankly, they are the time wasters. In fact, the whole lot are time wasters. And while you may well say, yeah, it's the bloody Tories again, no, it's not. It's the whole lot, the whole 650 of them. I wouldn't give you tuppence for any of them. Mind you, I haven't got tuppence to give, but it is. But if I had, I wouldn't give it for them. I believe in parliamentary debate, but it's got to be ordered debate. Dragging this sort of thing on and on and on and on is time wasting. And frankly, I know where my vote is going to go. If they're going, I'm not going to vote for a time waster. I'm not going to vote for somebody who gets dragged into this. Now, I have to say that our local MP, Maria Caulfield, has not been seen to be heading up any sort of move whatsoever on this one, so I can't blame her. There you go, Maria. I don't know whether that's kicking you with faint praise, but Metro calls to turbinate the PM. The gig is up, Boris. The turbinate thing is he's in India at the moment, and he's pictured wearing a turban. You know, it's all very well for us to scoff when people go to India, but it's one of the world's biggest economies. It is influential. It has a tendency to edge towards China rather than the West. So if that's the case, you've got India, a former colony, member of the Commonwealth, someone that we might expect to be an ally, and who on the surface is, that Boris is trying to smooth for being there. That's the Metro, London paper anyway. We'll get to the dig. The Times. A revitalized Russia can still win the war, Western intelligence warns. Well, this is the Americans saying, look, it's getting second breath. It's now beginning to make inroads into Kiev, towards Kiev, into Ukraine. Doing this because the biscuit is stuck a little bit by the corner of my mouth. I'll take a little cup of coffee, if that's all right with you. Thank you. Nerdor Television at gmail.com. If you would like to see your name here, $5 a day. Not a bad deal, right? And we're more and more people watching. I know because I have more and more people yelling at me. Anyway, we'll swig the biscuit crumbs away with a cup of coffee. Right, okay. But so India, with multi millions of people, huge workforce like China, therefore able to produce goods quite cheaply. Oh yes, we see about all the human rights violations, and indeed one must be concerned. But it is very difficult to tell a democratic country how to live when you tell it to bugger off if it tries to do the same to you. So the fact is, India is a powerhouse. It's not a member of the G7 yet. It's tending towards China, which is another economic powerhouse when it certainly comes to human resources. And it still swamps a certain amount of our aid because of the silly way that we set up the rules. So he's doing the right thing by going there. But while he's away, people sneer at it, right? At Turban Gate. I mean, who thought that on a level of media nowadays? Oh, so the PM bows to the Times. The PM bows to new party's inquiry after a Tory revolt. So they have a new one. Well, get on with it on your own time, not on our time, not on the time that we're paying you for. And we pay you a lot of money, and we give you a lot of perks, and we give you a lot of privilege, and we bow to the power that we give you. Then use those things, those resources wisely, not because you feel that you can ponce around looking important. You've got subsidized bars and subsidized meals and a privileged life within a bubble so that you've stopped understanding what the hell's going on in the street. Get on with it, please. Incidentally, there's a lovely row going on. I think it's a star. Well, we wait to start because there is a lovely row going on. Right, the Eye. Tory rebels force official inquiry into Johnson. Right, okay, same thing. Is the time wasters are going to waste more of our time? It doesn't matter whether it's important or not. It's been going on and on and on. And whatever else you say, this takes the time of people that we're paying. Would you pay somebody to work for you on that basis? Would you expect to be paid on that basis? Well, some people would, I suppose. No, you would not. You wouldn't shell out good money, but we do. As this clock ticks, so good money is being shelled out. Tick tock, we just paid for another one of these inquiries into whether he ate cake. No, actually, it's more than that. I won't trivialize it. He lied to Parliament. But there are many more ways of finding out whether, in fact, it was so severe that he shouldn't be Prime Minister than having inquiry after inquiry after inquiry. And in my view, for once, the government doesn't do much right, but it's right in trying to stifle this thing and say, go away, stop being so silly. It really is. I'm having a good Friday. Right, okay. The Daily Mail. Now, for once, well, no, I shouldn't say for once. Daily Mail's not a bad newspaper. Those people who don't agree with it politically say it's a bad newspaper. But that they mix their metaphors, as it were. is they may not agree with its politics, and I don't always agree with its politics, but it's a good newspaper. How long can the Partygate farce go on? And that's the question I'm asking. How long can all this nonsense go on and us pay for it? Make no mistake, that's where the money's dribbling away. And then when we get around to the end of the session, the government draws a close on this legislation, is we didn't have time for this legislation. But that was important legislation, doesn't matter. We were busy looking into the iced Christmas cake. Woo! The Daily Mirror. At last, the Tories turn on the PM. Mirror couldn't wait on the sidelines. Another time waster. Well done, the Daily Mirror. The champion of the people. It used to be. The Daily Mirror used to be a very, very good newspaper. I'm not saying it's a bad newspaper now, but it's mediocre to say the best. It really isn't the newspaper of the great days. Mind you, most of the world. It takes a special newspaper. I mean, in some ways, actually, if he was here, he would pat me on the head and would love me. But Stuart Dolby would say, well done, Keith. Recognise that you've got a good newspaper. The Financial Times, he will say. The Financial Times is a good newspaper. And he's right, actually. It is quite a good newspaper. But, of course, it's specialist. At last, the Tories turn on the PM. The next paper is the Financial Times. Number 10 threatens to shred Brexit trade deal with new Northern Ireland bill. Now, that is going to be important on the domestic front. The Brexit deal with Ireland is rubbish and nonsense anyway. Didn't help anybody. And since I have relatives, very close relatives, in fact, I have a daughter, and I have 2 grandsons who aren't actually living there any longer, but I don't blame them. No, that's not fair. It's a delightful place to live. If you want rural UK, go and live in Northern Ireland. It is lovely. Its quality of life now that the bombing was stopped is very high. But like all small communities, it is very inward looking. It finds it very difficult to look outside and consider how it fits into the rest of the world. It's not the only place. You got 52 American states. Well, no, so not 52. You got perhaps 48, 46 American states, all of whom behave in exactly the same way. You got various regions of England. And as for the so-called unity of the EU, that's crackers. Everybody's just pigs snout in the trough. Who can get the most money out without putting any in? Oh, I'm cynic. I am cynical this morning. But anyway, what number 10 is saying is look, this is all nonsense. And what we've got to do is to go back to the drawing board. Oh, well, the EU are never going to do that, of course. Somebody is trying to buy Twitter, social media, bringing a lot of money. But I think they better be careful because these things can be faddish. Netflix profits and subscriptions have plummeted because people have started to do things in a different way. People do things in a different way. It's an area that you have to run hard to stay standing up straight, or whatever the saying is. To stand still. The Sun. After Manu aces baby tragedy, the Sun has stayed as much on the sidelines as it possibly can. Rupert doesn't want to rock the boat. So it's home sweet home. And what have we got? We've got a picture on the front page of Ronaldo and his family. Everybody's feeling very unhappy, and that there is a surviving twin. They're all in their pajamas. I mean, what sort of picture is that? Frankly, I would have banned it. I wouldn't have let the photographer in while I was dressed like that. But there we go. He's a footballer, isn't Yeah, that's dismissive enough. The Daily Express. The Express traditionally a supporter of Boris, so they're not actually going to rip him apart. What they've done is a new treasure trove of clues in the cancer fight. The British discovery paves the way for better treatment, and that will be good news because in many ways, throughout Brexit, we lost sight of the evils of this disease, which has been with us so long. I understand that Cancer Research UK dropped £142 million in donations and subscriptions during that period because money was diverted to helping COVID cases. And that was just the UK. Worldwide, it dropped a hell of a lot of money. So the fact that the research seems to have discovered what's called, pretty scientific, revolutionary treatment for cancer patients. And it's basically through genetic research. Some people call it that monster research, which, let's face it, it not only goes on, but it's become very useful in many instances. Now, here we go. Our dear Daily Star. Calm down, dears. The War of the Wazzocks is apparently we reported yesterday, or it was reported, and we passed it on, that Donald Trump had walked out with Piers Morgan. Well, now it appears that Nigel Farage has got into the act. I'm not so sure about Trump, but frankly, I am a fan of Piers Morgan, and I'm a fan of Nigel Farage because they say the unspeakable, like me. Everybody hates us because we say what everybody's afraid to say. And it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. What we do is we put up our ideas and our thoughts and what we say. I mean, a bit like, I've been sort of half introduced to Ike, the conspiracy theorist, David Icke. And while I wouldn't say that I was a disciple, what I do think is, why on earth do people shut this man up? He gives rise to debate. That's what democracy is supposed to be about. That's what an open society is supposed to be about. What we do is we set our own rules for what is an open debate, what it is to have free speech. And then we hammer anybody who steps outside the rules. How crazy can we get? I like Farage particularly. He's a nice host, but I met him a couple of times. Not one-on-one, but I've been at a private lunch and stopped by his lunch table on one occasion. And it's very nice to listen to him on some occasions. And yes, he's a loudmouth, and so is Piers Morgan. But my God, some of the things they get us talking about need to be talked about. So on we go, onwards and upwards. Except there are those people who try to deny our history, the wokes. Absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Free speech indeed. Ha! So, as I say, there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's no such thing as free speech. I don't believe you have to rub the barrier of those people who say, in the name of free speech, shut up. How's that for a dichotomy? I think that's the right word. So the War of the Wazzocks, because Nigel Farage, Donald Trump, and Piers Morgan all fell out over an interview. So that's where we stand with this morning. What's the time? Goodness gracious me, it's 9 o'clock. I've been wittering on for half an hour. let me just say, because it's this nice casual morning, a slight morning cough. I've been lucky; I haven't had COVID, so I've got no other symptoms. Don't worry about it. And incidentally, I've been in here since 7:10, just in case you wonder about how I watched the day. I watched the day unfold, and the courthouse is particularly interesting to see the people going in and out of there. But still, if you really want to do a little bit of gazing for no reason at all, come down to the White Hart and sit and have a cup of coffee and sit and watch the traffic going in and out of the courthouse. Right, where were we? Yes. That we're actually looking at what's going on in the world. We've taken a look at the local weather and broadly the silly nonsense that is in the news at the moment. And what's not nonsense, of course, is the continued war in Russia and the reports coming out of American intelligence that Putin is now convinced that he can win and that he will beat the West into submission is frightening indeed, because it seems to me that that report is based on those people who are at the coalface, those people who sit in society, those people who listen in the coffee shops and the pubs and the highways and the byways and the debates and the organizations of the government should. And the moment the government does, what? It's going to cost us 2 eggs in the morning. Do people eat 2 eggs? 2 eggs and bacon. I still think it's a great breakfast. But they don't want to pay the price. And the price is becoming a little bit uncomfortable. There are things which will disappear off dining tables and undoubtedly then will disappear out of restaurants because people aren't prepared to pay the price. But they're not paying the price, they'll complain about price rises. They'll complain about inflation. And yet they're quite happy to see it stoked by us spending money on all sorts of nonsensical things and ignoring the really great things, except it's like bang a plate or a mug or whatever for the NHS at the start of COVID. If somebody had said, I didn't do it, I wouldn't do it. If somebody had said, bang the mugs for the coalface workers, those people, nurses and doctors, and social workers and case workers, and for that matter, the hospital orderlies, I would be happy to bang the mug. The NHS is a huge, sprawling monolith that gets more wrong than right. It's like where it all started, and I actually heard somebody yesterday, people that I would respect, still battering on about globalization and how wonderful it was, and it's being disproved. It was a creation of the very wealthy at Davos, the World Economic Forum. Some companies still carry on, well, many companies do, on the basis that that's the Bible. In this case, the Bible is wrong. Globalization has splintered society. It's fractured what we do. We make more mistakes now and get more things wrong. I forget who I was speaking to. It's got to be this morning. Yeah, I guess perhaps it was Shannon. I was having my little natter. And we were talking about the lift going wrong in my apartment complex. And I said, I'd love to be the owner or own shares in these companies that manufacture moving sidewalks, escalators, lifts, because people rush to buy them. There's no end to the market. They're busy at sales and installation and so on for something that consistently goes wrong. How many times have you had to walk up or down an escalator? How many times have you had to go upstairs because the lift isn't working? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Astonishing. and people rush to put money into these companies. Wow. If only I could find something that I can make badly that nobody would actually buy, except that there's no alternative. I'd love to be in it. Love to be in that market. Oh, come on, Keith. Let's do a calm down, shall we? Yeah, what shall we do? I think yes, this is my favorite because this is my summer office quite often. History right in the middle of Lewis, as if we needed history in the middle of Lewis. Lewis is history. Quite astonishing, quite amazing, the amount of history centered in this small town, which was a Saxon town. As far as we're aware, it was created by Alfred the Great, or at least he first noted it, and therefore I think gave it the status of a market town. That park has at its centerpiece Southover Grange. Southover Grange is made from the stone from which the priory, Lewes Priory, St Pancras Priory, was built. Despite the fact that Henry VIII and Thomas Cromwell tried to pull it down, much of the foundation of that priory is still there. It was started in 1069, just 3 years after the conquest. And much of its garden, as you can see, is there still. And some of that beautiful architecture came, pirated, admittedly, but it came from that priory that was started over 1,000 years ago. The house itself is 16th century, built in the 1500s for the Newton family. How many people know there was a Battle of Lewes at that priory, which is accredited as being the start of the democratic process in England? Oh yeah, you'll hear about Magna Carta, and of course Magna Carta is very important, except King John simply didn't pay any attention to it. He more or less threw it into the waste paper bin. But when Henry III tried to do the same thing 50 years, 60 years later, Simon de Montfort rallied the barons and said, no, come on. You're holding lavish parties. You're having a wonderful time at our money. So just mind your P's and Q's. And when he didn't, he got an army together, about a third of the size of the king's, by the way, and beat him just down the road here, just down the road at Lewes Priory. Well, there's a battleground just a mile away, but it spilled over into the priory because that's where the king was holding a party. Thank you. Religious feasts in those days were very important, and it was the feast of St Pancras, and the king was down there, thanking God for giving him a total power over the UK, or at least over England. And Simon sort of came knocking and said, "Oi, look over your shoulder. and then tanked him. Oh, you can't make some of these things up. But anyway, the Newtons lived there, and in those days there was no Eastbourne, there was no Brighton. Lewes was the major town for East Sussex, and it was important during the English Civil War, which went from late 1500s into the early 1600s, for the Royalists to gain a foothold, a toehold in East Sussex. So they sent a force. They sent an army, a small army, well, part of an army, to take Lewes, the Newton family, and Southover Grange. One you can see down there now almost in its entirety. I mean, there's lovely parks. And when they got to Haywards Heath, a force from Lewes met them and beat them, sent the Royalists packing. If in fact it had been the other way round, history could well have been changed. The Royalists may well have won the English Civil War. And then what would have happened? One day I'm going to get somebody interested to do one of the ifs of history. What likely would have happened if they'd have won? Anyway, those are the sort of things that you can actually take a look at. And why did I get onto that? Heaven only knows. Because this is a day for being calm, trying to get people in from the outside. Not easy on a Friday, not easy on a sunny Friday. But nonetheless, we are only 3-4 days old. We're doing our best, and we haven't done too badly so far. But today, it may well be that you're going to have to put up with me reminiscing, yelling, screaming. Oh yeah, let's when you talk about that, somebody said, "Oh, I do like that little cartoon, Keith," which is painted you with the little scarf and so on. So. Lions, tigers, we invoke them all in the name of free speech. Here is where you can have freedom of speech. And I'm happy to say that one way or another, we are in the heart of free speech, because this hotel, the White Hart Hotel, is where Tom Paine developed much of his thinking, the rights of man, and which occasioned the colonists in the New World to rebel and to set up shop as the United States of America. I think there were 13 to begin with. Just make sure that yes, we're okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were properly attached to the internet, because it says that we're going out live, and hopefully we are. I'm not wasting my breath this morning. It's all right, it's being recorded anyway. So full of history, which is very appropriate to today. Full of history appropriate to today. And I'm very proud that we're part of that. Because as television stations go, there aren't many that are as independent as we are. We are a channel. We're rather more than just a blog. In fact, we are a television channel. We go to many, many parts of the world. One of the things that I think that is important, that you should have your say. So, well, that's right. That's what I started to do. I started to point out that along the bottom of your screen should be going Mirador Television, all one word, or Mirador Television at gmail.com. And if you want to send a message to that, we will pick it up at some stage during the day. We'll get that message. And we'll whether you want us to promote the dog charity, an event that's coming up, what you're doing for children in the community, beating your own drum, let us know. Because if we can, we'll get you on. And if we can't, we'll pass on your message at some stage. We are not a channel of I have lost my dog. But if I have lost my dog leads to knowledge about a local charity or a local kennels or whatever, and that's a different kettle of fish. Where was I? I was somewhere. And I suppose I should. Oh, yes, 17 minutes. It's amazing how quickly 17 minutes goes. In fact, from the top of the program, it's 3/4 of an hour. I had better just run through the headlines again for those of you, because most people don't tune at the top of the hour. I'm not sure how many people tune. Well, that's actually lots tuning. We know that. Because the number of times that you threaten to break my nose or my neck or whatever. Just occasionally somebody says, well done, Heath. All right. Here we go. And in my view, it reflects just how our leaders are time wasting when there are huge international issues and national issues to be looked at. But anyway, let us do this without comment. The Daily Telegraph: Johnson buckles over party inquiry. In other words, an inquiry into the PM's behaviour. And there are pomposity all around. Oh, I said I wasn't going to comment. Pomposity all around. Never in the living history of Parliament has a Prime Minister ever tried to stop an inquiry like this, etc., etc., etc. Horlicks. Who cares? The Russians are said by American intelligence to be gaining ground. The belief is now firmly entrenched. Helped, I may say, by Mr. Macron and the German Chancellor, whose name sort of escapes me because he's only been there for a short period of time and hasn't made much of a mark, and one or two other European leaders. That we will buckle, that we are pacifists in the main. There's nothing wrong with being a pacifist if you're prepared to put up with the consequences. It's fine. We live in a supposed world where everybody should be able to have the freedom of thought. And if we boast about it, then we must give it. But that essentially is, I think, people are time wasting when those are the issues, the big issues, and the economy, of course, stagflation. But no, we've got to worry about iced cake, which actually confuses. It contributes to our problems. It doesn't take it away. This debate. Metro. The gig is up, Boris. Come on, come clean. You can't hide your lies and so on anymore. Well, he can't, and he's been a naughty boy. And you have to put that in perspective at the time. As the PM bows to new party's inquiry after Tory revolt. Well, there are an awful lot of people who are in the back benches who would like to be in the front benches, and they never will make it. So what they do is they strut at local MP level. I have to say, whatever else can be said about our local MP, she's not a strutter. She does seem to try and get on with stuff, whether it's right or wrong. The Eye, Tory rebels force official inquiry into Johnson. Yeah, well, the Eye would. And The Guardian, MPs back lies inquiry on day of humiliation for PM. Oh, yeah, wonderful. What did that resolve? Sweet bugger all. That's what it resolved. The Daily Mail. How long can the Partygate farce go on? Now, that's the first sensible headline that you've got. I don't care whether you like the Mail or you don't like the Mail. The fact is that, in my opinion, this headline is spot on. So what a number of people are thinking is, you're wasting our money, our parliamentary time. You're not coming to grips. You're not coming to grips with what's going on. By the way, if you wander past the White Hart, drop in. I mean, people are very reluctant. They, oh my gosh, I don't know whether I could go on television. Well, you'll go down to the pub or you'll go into the bar and you'll start to spout. Have the courage of your convictions. Bring it on here. It's okay. So that's the Mail. The Mirror. At last, Tories turn on the PM. The Financial Times. It's getting down to the nitty gritty. One of the things that particularly, it's important to pay attention to those things that are going on in various parts of the United Kingdom that aren't central to iced cake in government in Westminster. And what they're talking about is that the government is not at all satisfied with what's happening over the Brexit, or at least our break from Europe, as far as Northern Ireland is concerned. And from all the people that I know in Northern Ireland, although there are differing views, they're not satisfied either. So a fresh look would certainly help clear the air there. I keep looking over my shoulder. Well, one of the things we'll talk about after 9:30, when we're not quite as serious. Oh, it's coming up to 23 minutes past, and the weather outside is same as yesterday, 15 degrees, light breeze, a bit more cloud than we got yesterday, but it's not going to stop being warm, and very little chance of rain. So enjoy the day again. The Sun, after Man United aces baby talk. Oh, right. The Sun has carried as its front page story the death of Ronaldo's child. Much as I think that I'm very sorry for anybody who loses a child, whether it's front page stuff or not. I think it's just Rupert Murdoch ducking and diving and making sure that he's not mainstream in criticizing the government. His power base is staying in tune with the government of the day. The Daily Express, new treasure trove of clues in cancer fight. That is a good story. I lost my wife basically as a byproduct of cancer. And she got COPD from some cancer treatment, but now apparently the geneticists, the people that tamper with our genes, say that they've come across an astonishing, a new bundle, if you like, of ways of treating genes which will help the fight in cancer. Calm down, dear, says the Daily Star. The War of the Wazzocks. And that's a lovely story. Donald Trump stormed out of a Piers Morgan interview. Didn't like the questions. Or didn't like the questioning method. Nigel Farage seems to have got into the act somewhere. So as a consequence, they're all yelling and screaming and stamping their little feet. And that's what the newspaper is saying, is the Star is, they're all shouting and who pays any attention. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter. The thing about the Star, and I mean, was it yesterday? Yes, it was. Yesterday, its headline was, if we shout loud enough, people from outer space will hear and know that we're here, and then they'll attack us. Not a bad story, really. Makes a lot of sense. Whether there are little green men out there monitoring, as we do, radio signals and so on to see whether we are really alive. My God, they've only got to come here to find out whether we're really alive. But we should encourage different stories. We should encourage people looking at a different aspect of things, and encourage them to get the rest of us angry enough, if you like, or excited enough, or animated enough, so that we do enter into the debate that we say that we have in an open society. And since we've been subject to woke beliefs for quite some time now, then I would say to the Star, forget the people that pull down statues. Start backing people like Piers Morgan. Start backing people by Nigel Farage. And yes, in a funny sort of way, stop knocking Donald Trump. We may not like his form of governance. We may not like his form of debate. We may not like his ideas. But in a free society, we shouldn't actually try to stop him speaking. What we should do is to come back with logical arguments of our own. If we can't find a logical argument, find an illogical one, just at least to start the debate. Good heavens. 8:27, 3 minutes left. And that's more or less what the papers have to say. So once again, we do invite you in this next couple of hours. We'll have just gentle chat, and those people who want to wander in can on a daily basis. Not today, because this is the final day of our first week. We had no idea whether this was going to work. We had no idea whether, in fact, we would get off the ground. It was only right up until midnight and the last Monday night. Then we managed to fix a problem with the camera. And even then it was by accident. I fixed it. So if I fixed it, it was accident. I have no idea how these things work. I pressed a button and, oh my God, that's what we'd be looking for. So we would like in this next couple of hours to have you in the studio to send in your stuff. And I don't care whether you're sitting in New York, because we know a number of people watch from that part of the world. We don't care where you are. Send in your stuff. And if you can't actually make it into the White Hart, then we'll put you on the air, the way that we do with a number of people at the moment as reporters. But we're very happy to put you on the air. So you can have your say. You can have a go at me or anybody else who appears for that matter. Don't be afraid to put your head above the parapet. That's what's needed in it. Oh, the politicians will tell you free speech, but not you, or you. Our leaders, the financial people, will say, oh, yes, we're here to help you, but not you, and you. Well, we have no isms. You can't swear on this program, or not in a real sense. You can't break the law by libeling somebody. But other than that, we don't stop any sort of thoughts. The more wacky the thought, the more it needs airing, just in case. Like once upon a time, there was a television station 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, that actually dared to put on their screens somebody who thought the world was round. Sent into prison for a little while, but nonetheless, they dared to do it. And that's the sort of thing that we think. A lot of wacky thoughts, but sometimes they turn out to be right. Okay, that's it for the morning news roundup. We'll be gone for about 5 minutes, just while we distribute various things. And then we'll be back with affairs from the heart. Thank you for this week. This first hour this week. I know in many ways they're staunch favourites at the moment, but I hope that you'll find out you can dip in here, have as much fun as you would if you dipped into some of the other morning shows. You get more chance of having your say. See you. Well, I'll see you in a few minutes, but I will also see you next week as we go into a brave new world, and hopefully what we've learned in these 2 or 3 days. Particularly the negative things will be made positive, and the positive things we'll keep. Till then, till then.